Kris, a number of my friends and family are really frustrated with the amount of tax that they pay. They look at their net check compared to their gross pay, and they're not happy. So, how does Canada really compare to other countries when it comes to taxes?
The thing with Canada is how many different types of taxes that we pay. It's the compounding factor. So while someone might take a look at, say, their federal income tax and think, oh, well, okay, I kind of understand that. Or individually, their provincial income tax, okay, I kind of understand that. That's not the trick. The trick is to look at the layer cake of taxation that we have here in Canada, Hal. And at the end of the day, the Fraser Institute says that we pay more than 40% of our paychecks in various levels of taxes. So that includes municipal, provincial, and federal. And keep in mind, quite often governments try to call these things levies or fees, but they're all still taxes.
Well, we'll chat about provincial taxes in just a moment here, Kris. But recent polls suggest the honeymoon with Prime Minister Mark Carney may be over, even though he says his government has cut taxes for middle income Canadians. Now, the tax cut adds up to about $840 a year for a two-income family. Yeah, as you and I both know, every dollar does count, but over a year, just over $800 doesn't seem to be a large amount, especially for two people.
Yeah, and I don't know about you, I'm sure in your newsroom you get the same sort of emails and phone calls how so many people are just fighting to pay the basic bills. So around 50% or so of Canadians report that they're within $200 every month of just not being able to cover all of their bills. It's getting really grim out there for a lot of working people. And to your point, right? It it depends on who the person is who's paying the taxes. But $800 is good. We want to praise Prime Minister Mark Carney for cutting that $800. But, and this is the big one, it is things like the incoming industrial carbon tax that people are really bracing themselves for, and the amount of waste that we're seeing. Credit where it is due. We did see Prime Minister Mark Carney get rid of the consumer carbon tax. So that is typically when you go to the gas station nowadays, compared to about a year ago, you're going to find about 20 cents per liter of savings of gasoline and diesel. That's important, and we wanted to note that. The one caveat here, though, of course, Hal, is that we know they're working on a big industrial carbon tax that they're going to hit us with. We're just bracing ourselves.
You know, it's nice, as you mentioned, that Prime Minister Mark Carney lowered the Canadian consumer carbon tax to zero.
Mhm.
Not quite eliminated yet, but did lower it to zero. But what about a lot of the critics are saying the federal government is spending way too much money?
This is
Where
the
really can you cut? Because, I mean, you shouldn't cut the money that's sent to the provinces for healthcare and education. Maybe start cutting what at the CBC?
Yeah. So there's so many places where the federal government can cut. It can start with cutting the CBC. So they should just cut that altogether. We're going to save $1.4 billion there with a B. To put that kind of money into perspective, Hal, that kind of money could otherwise pay the full-time salaries of about 7,000 police officers plus 7,000 paramedics. We could have that instead of paying for the CBC. So that's right off the top. Then you start getting into what they would call, the smaller change things, but it all adds up and it does matter. This federal government, Hal, blew $100,000 making a documentary about a grocery cart. I'm not kidding. Like, there are thousands of examples just like that. So this government definitely needs to quit wasting money. I'll give you another example. Global Affairs Canada. They spend around $50,000 a month on alcohol that they're billing to taxpayers. And I'm not talking a ceremonial bottle of wine or, the champagne on the edge of a ship. No, this is staff at this department blowing 50 grand a month on booze. And we all get to pay for it. It's outrageous.
Kris, now when it comes to federal taxes, Canada's actually lower than the United States. I think 34%, about 37%. The issue apparently is when you factor in those provincial taxes. That's where they go through the roof, so to speak, especially since 8 states south of the border don't even have that state tax.
Yeah, I was just seeing on Twitter, Florida Governor Ron DeSantis talking about not having a state income tax, and that looked amazing. I'm here in Alberta, and so we don't have a sales tax, which is nice. But just imagine having no provincial income tax. So unfortunately, across Canada, we do pay both federal and provincial income taxes. And you're right, that's when it really starts nailing families. I'll give you a quick example. So in Alberta, they have reduced the provincial income tax. So it's now down to 8% for the first $50,000 worth of earnings, right? So for a two-person working family, Alberta Premier Danielle Smith lowered their taxes by about $1,500 a year. That's nothing to sneeze at. Now we are really competitive with British Columbia, but the catch with Alberta is that we don't have a sales tax, whereas British Columbia still has a PST. I'll go a little bit further afield. In Nova Scotia, their average income is in the 60s. It's around $62,000, $63,000 a year, and they pay really high provincial income taxes, and they pay really high provincial sales taxes. In Alberta, we're earning more. On average, it's around $72,000, $71,000 per year for average. And we pay lower provincial income taxes and no provincial sales tax. So depends on where you are across Canada. And this is where we see the layer cake of taxation really taking a bite out of our wallets.
Kris Sims, Alberta Director of the Canadian Taxpayers Federation. Thanks so much for your time today.
Thank you, Hal.